Hello guys, welcome back to my channel once again. It's your voice Style on One, as you always know, and we are here with another episode, an episode that we are remembering a hero, a black hero who has been representing blacks in the world. This is no other person but Martin Luther King Jr. There was a relay there was a protest which was done in America in 1963. During that time, Martin Luther King delivered a speech, and it was a very strong speech which happened. People are remembering this real hero of which is 28th of August 1963. Martin Luther King delivered a strong speech in America about the affairs of blacks, how they are living in America, and what are some of his dreams for those things to change. I'm going to let you see the video, and I'm going to explain the rest of the story for you guys to know what he said during that speech. So yesterday was the date that people celebrated this day to remember a great man, to remember a hero, to remember a black who stands for his fellow black men and every color in the world. It's no other person but Martin Luther King. So please, make me a favor, don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell for more. Let's go with the video.
I have the pleasure to present to you Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty.
Well, as you all hear the first part of the video, I'm going to play the other part of the video for you guys to hear what this man have to say. We have to be remembering our heroes. We have to be remembering the people who fight for freedom of black men, who fight for the freedom to live, to prevail in this world. They were having a big dreams for continent of the world to become one people, to unite as one people, no difference in color. So I'm going forward to explain the other story, the other part of the story before I will play the full video, the video that he said, I have a dream. He said, 100 years later, the Negro still lives on an island of lonely poverty in a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro still lingers on the fingers of American society, and find himself exiled to same land as him. This is why we have come here today to represent our shameful condition. In a way, we came to this country capital to cast a check. When the architect of the Republic wrote the sublime word of the Constitution and a Declaration of Independence, they signed a promissory note to which every American will become hired. This promissory note allowed all men, yes, blacks as well as whites, to enjoy the inalienable principles of life, freedom, and pursuit of happiness. I will pay as far as each citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this care obligation of hers, America handed the Negroes a box check, a check that is filled in with the phrases, insufficient funds. We refuse to believe that funds are insufficient in the great vault of opportunity offered by this country. And so we came to cast this check, a check that will give us, upon presentation, the riches of freedom and a guarantee of justice. We also came to this sanctuary to remind America of the passionate urgency of the now. This is not the time to allow things to cool down or blow up the tranquilizer of gradualism. This is the time to fulfill the promises of democracy. This is the time to raise from the dark and the desolate valley of segregation to the radiant path of justice. This is the time to lift our nation from the quicksand of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. This is the time to make justice true for all the children of God. It will be the end for this nation if it did not fully appreciate the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of legitimate Negro impatience will not end until an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality is achieved. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And those who hope that the niggers need to vent their tensions a little and then be started will have a rude awakening if the country starts functioning again as if nothing had happened. There will be no rest and no tranquility in America until the Negroes are granted their right as citizens. The whirlwind of revolt will continue to shake the foundation of our nation until the bright day of justice has risen. But there is something I have to say to my people who are here on a warm threshold that leads to the courthouse. In our progress toward the right goal, we must not stain ourselves with unjust action. We try not to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of hatred and resentment. We will have to lead our struggle forever on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. We will have to continually raise to the majestic peg of those who respond to physical strength with the strength of the soul. This wonderful new militancy that has affected the black community should not lead us to lack of trust in the whole white community, because many of our white brothers are there present here today. Proofs have come to understand that their destiny is linked with our destiny, and they have come to understand that their freedom is inextricably linked to our freedom. These offenses that unite us and which has caused a storm for the fortified well of injustice will have to be fought by an army of two races. We cannot walk alone, and as we move forward, we will have to strive to march forward forever. We can't go back. There are those who ask, we will never be satisfied as long as Negro is a victim of unspeakable horrors to which he is subjected by the policy. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies rise from the fatigue of the journey, cannot find lodging in the motels on street and in the hotels of cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the social movement really allowed for blacks from a small ghetto to a large ghetto. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their dignity by signs that say for whites only. We can never be satisfied as long as the Mississippi niggers can vote and the New York niggers believe they have nothing to vote for. No, we are not yet satisfied, and we will not be until justice flows like water and law like a mighty river. He has not forgotten that some of you have come here after enormous trials and tribulations. Some of you have just come out of the cramped cells of a prison. Some of you have come from areas where demand for freedom has left us battered by the storm of persecution and stunned by the guts of police brutality. You are the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the certainty that undeserved suffering is redeeming. Return to Mississippi, return to Alabama, return to South Carolina, return to Georgia, return to Louisiana, return to your neighborhood and to the ghettos of the northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will change. Let us not be plunged into the valley of despair, and therefore, my friends, I tell you that even you have to face the roughness of today and tomorrow, I always have a dream of me. It is a dream deeply rooted in American dream that one day this nation will stand up alive. The meaning of the conviction of the fool. We hold this truth obvious that all men are created equal. This is a strong message, and you listen to the last message of him.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream. My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day with all of God's children. Be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when it happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free.
You all hear from the great man's mouth before he will be assassinated. These are people who stand for the freedom of black men and women, children, kids, because they know the kind of people are these people, the kind of wisdom and knowledge these people have to fight for freedom. He was being assassinated. This was a protest for freedom for black men in America. And today we remember this man, this great hero, Martin Luther King Jr. This happened in 1963, that is August 28, which was yesterday. We thank him very well for his stand for the black people. And still we are going on in the same kind of problems in many countries today in the Western world. Black men cannot have their freedom. Black men are still unable to get freedom. But we have to come together as one people to make sure that all these things are out in the continent, in the world. Thank you very much, Martin Luther. You have done your best. You have done your part. And it's left to us, the black men of this world, no matter where you may be, let us try and unite the world. We are the people who can make sure that we unite this world to become as one people. And let us start working on those kind of things to make sure that we are all one. We see each other as brothers and sisters. We back one another. Let us be there for one another, to support one another, no matter where you may find yourself. Thank you very much for watching this video. See you in the next episode.